Well, hello everybody. Greetings. It's Sunday. Had a fun adventure last night in Hamilton. I did my first stag and doe. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I've never seen that out west. Complete cultural difference in Canada. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm a little worse for wear today, doing the old shake and boogie and two-stepping and all of it. Of course, I was the only two-stepper. At least I bring that from Western Canada, and I think I did okay. Tina was surprised. It was our first time dancing together in all of COVID, so it was nice to get out on the dance floor, something I haven't done for a very, very long time. It was great. It was wonderful. We had a great time, but this is now every day of the week from now till June 28th as we go through residential school genocide. I am going to give, historically backed up by the greatest historians in all of America, as well as all the world credited experts, best of the best, all backed up in literature in the truth section. A truth section that politicians all over the world never like to address. You get educated all about the Nazis, Germany, oh, the horrors, and they were. Ladies and gentlemen, they were horrors. A gross, gross travesty of the world, a promise by the Allies, never again. But we're going to look at that. Was that the first example in the world? The Nazi Third Reich of Germany under Hitler? The beginning of the Enabling Act in 1933? Was that the first ever seen style and system the world had ever known? That evil? The answer is a resounding no. From absolutely the greatest minds in the world, all backed up in historical teachings and texts, not made available to anyone in the Commonwealth, let alone Canada. You actually have to go to school and purchase this education because historically, from the Catholic Church to the Church of England and many, many others, only those church under state had that privy. The rest of you are kept in the dark. If you want to get that education, you have to go pay for it. Big dollars. You better be of the first class. Otherwise, you're just the fodder for all the lies and propaganda, you the third class, or again worse, even that of what is the savage Indian. Terms I don't use, I didn't create any of these terms. This is the legal system of Canada from 1867 all the way to right now as I give this presentation, this video. I'm going to do stories, true stories, every day, backed up again by publication that normal people, everyday Joe Janes, would have to go pay for in a professional first-class education in the university or other. We're going to go rewind the clock to the absolute first instance of concentration camps by who and what time frame. If you don't like the idea of always going back to 1867, you're not going to like these videos I do each and every day to wake up Canadians and First Peoples to the travesty of residential school genocide and where it comes from. Today's journey takes us to 1867, South Africa. Not the Zulus, not the travesty of the Zulus, but in relation to the Boers and all the black African children. In fact, 120,000 black African children would see concentration camps in South Africa from 1867 to 1901, the Boer War years. For all of you who don't know, and you've looked at the German Holocaust following 1933's Enabling Act, it was crafted nearly 60 years before. With the founding of the Indian Act of 1876, the Zulu War the British commenced, as well as the Boer Wars, all over gold and diamonds. I know a lot of you have heard the blood diamond stories going into West Africa and other parts of Africa, but we're going to the very beginning. At the height of the British Empire, the height of colonialism, which is neo-Nazi, neo-nationalism, all perpetrated absolutely by every colonial power. There are 7 in the world historically. Britain by far is the worst. By far is the worst. At that time period, blacks were not even human beings. The savage, I could say the word, but I'm not going to say it. The savage black was regarded as inhuman and to be fodder in all kinds of gross human rights atrocities. Britain created it. It started first with the Indian Act of 1876, but a precursor of 1867 that you can read, that exists today, is the preamble of everything that is the highest law of every Canadian. You give all your sovereignty, all your narrative, all of your governance, all of the executive power of the Government of Canada, as stated in your preamble, is invested in the British Empire. Absolutely, since that day all the way to right now today. The Boer Wars, when you go back to the Danes and the Africans, you will find a tragic history of over 120,000 South African black children placed into concentration camps, where exactly, and I mean exactly like the Jews of Nazi Germany, in the exact same design, was made 60 years earlier by the British Empire in South Africa. 1 in 6 children would perish. You see the pictures? It is unlike anything else other than exactly what Nazi Germany did in the same build 60 years later. It was done by Britain first. 120,000 African children went in, and a sixth of them, or 20,000, lost their lives. The pictures are horrific. They're accurate. All the graves have been discovered since then. It doesn't make great public news. Neo-nationalism, Nazification, was not created entirely by Germany. It was a fundamental staple of colonialism, and the greatest source we can find in world history absolutely belongs to the British Empire. If you're not white, you're not right. That's the reality. You were never a human being. Now, USSR, Communist China, and the United States of America promised the entire world going forward that that would never be part of the world ever again. But here we are today, and here we are looking at what is stated by our propagated media and all your governments. I can promise you, Pierre Poilievre is sworn to the crown, sworn to that neo-nationalism, that Nazification that is absolute by all those attached to colonial systems. And we are. Our Constitution, which remains unchanged, which was a founding requirement of the United Nations Charter 1945. Now your world powers, again by Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, Maxime Bernier, none of them want to remove that, Canadians. Apparently our country, along with the Commonwealth and all those who signed the Commonwealth, are more than happy to keep that crown Nazi power that was not created by Nazi Germany. It was a staple of every colonial empire, all 7 of them, all of them, Japan, Portugal, Spain, United Kingdom, which was the British Empire, and all of its 5 states attached under that UNSC power. Absolutely, Absolutely. France, Denmark. This is the truth, people. And every day during residential school genocide, we're going to go back and highlight what exactly Canada's attached to, what Canada has and always will promote, as long as we remain constitutionally attached to the 1867 Constitutional Act of Canada, which is two-thirds of the governing rules, meaning how you are governed, the rules in which empower those to govern over you, as well as your sovereignty and how you narrate yourself on the world stage. We are nothing of the Allies. We are more closely matched to Nazi Germany and absolutely everything that was Great Britain, everything the royal family wishes to bring forward today. When people talk about New World Order, it has nothing, and I repeat, nothing to do with democratic republics or absolutely communist republics. Nothing. Nothing. That's been a fault of many over many periods, a carefully crafted manipulation, propaganda against all of you, the people underneath said systems. They've gotten away with it in America. American presidents have failed many times, believing that really it's communism that's creating all of this, when history proves beyond all reasonable doubts, all those involved in any massive, gross atrocities committed on this earth in very recent time periods, folks, less than 100 years, all the way up to World War II, because that's what created World War II. World War I and II were wars of colonialism. If you haven't read the gross violation of what were the Boer Wars by the British Empire over the Danes and the South Africans, you should read that history. It's less than 100 years ago. It leads us right into Nazi Germany because it was all done, crafted, created before Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany, Germany, who was a crown colonial themselves, became colonial much, much later in the game. The problem is these seven colonials were at each other's throats for dominance over less civilized people. So they say all of them share one thing in common, a superiority of a set human being over all others, not in their cultural possession, not in their class structure system where you have deities being people chosen by God, so they claim, which no Bible, no Quran, no nothing supports in any way, shape, or form what the claim of these self-appointed imperial powers suggest, that God gives them the sword from heaven. God chose them as a royal family or an empire deity that will rule over all of you. And those who don't believe in their class system become the savages who need to be eradicated, who need to be forced. You will not find this in the Bible, a Quran, a Jewish text, or anything to do with the Old Testament. You will find none of this backed up by any of these deity empires. That is the grossest thing about royal families and what we see in the world today in the worst atrocious human rights violators. They all share a divinity of a ruling class, and then they class structure everybody else, including, if it's not a slave class, it's a class to be eradicated or to be disposed of. It's happened all over Africa. Africa got it the worst. 7 major colonials. You want to know the worst? That mimics most of what Nazi Germany became. All you have to do is look at the British Empire, because whatever Nazi Germany did, it was learned from the British Empire. Another note about the Boer War and what happened to the South Africans at the time, beyond the 120,000 African children who were put in concentration camps 60 years before Nazi Germany, starved, depraved, diseased, just like the Jewish Holocaust concentration camps. There were tricks that every first person and every Canadian should know. The measles breakouts, the blankets that were given to the children full of measles, mumps, and other plague infestations were administered to all those children, just like what they did to the first peoples in Canada by the British Empire. You will learn the history of the northern states as we do more of these videos. I will give you more and more stories every day, backed up again by all the greatest historians in the world. I couldn't make any of this up if my life depended on it. It is all credible, verifiable, and real. In real history that should be made available to every Canadian, every member of the Commonwealth. But it isn't, because your preamble of your Constitutional Act, consolidated 1867 plus 1982, in the small little slide-in charter in the Part B section, doesn't ever take away the introduction to your Constitution that we are a country, as of 1867, the Constitutional Act of Canada that is in force today, will always give the sovereignty and authority and the needs of the British Empire above all else. We give our divinity to the God, the real God, the royal family. That's what they believe. That's what you are sworn to. That is the highest law in Canada, which is a gross violation of the 1945 Charter that was to be repealed and amended by one King George VI, who promised Teddy Roosevelt, Joseph Stalin, all the Allies, in fact, the entire world, that is what was going to happen. He died before he could finish Canada. Our corrupt, filthy politicians, liberal, conservative, because those are the only two who ever had power, made a pact from that day forward. Now NDP's on board. Maxime Bernier's People's Party of Canada, he's on board. You'll find most politicians are on board. Right now, today, to avoid residential school genocide, the UNSC and the Elder Council, an attempt to, Canada wishes to ignore all of that, scrap it. They would rather entertain World War III against the United States of America, the thundering push of all the Commonwealth in the name of Queen Elizabeth II, all prime ministers, all of them, all corrupted in the Commonwealth, all NWO, pound on the United States of America right now. Joe Biden is faced with, will he bring in the American military to break airspace with Russia and fight? That's what Ukraine calls for. They say, we can't make a deal because we're not willing to give those large Russian-speaking portions of Ukrainian border dispute regionalism. They could have kept it. The Ukrainian government could have kept all those territories as long as they give them their division of powers in real federalism. Ukraine says, no, no, no. It's Kiev over everybody, and it will be one unitary system regardless of those people. We watch the U.S. Immigration Department refuse all Russian asylum seekers and give Ukrainian asylum seekers 100% status. There's already employment specific to only Ukrainians against even citizens of the United States of America. This breaches the House. It breaches Senate. It's all done with absolutely no congressional support, none whatsoever, outside of all democratic principles that are the United States of America. This is coming to a head come November. There are midterms. It is completely transparent now that House is going to flip to the Republicans once more. Easily, just in the first midterm. We watch expats running with all the wealth, these oligarchs and all their wealth, who now face the IRS are coming to Canada and other areas of the Commonwealth so that they can hide their gross profits taken from all American citizens in direct violation of America First 1924. It seems the sins of the past British Empire are now forgotten. Now, all of a sudden, the neo-nationalism, the love of the crown, seems to come full circle. A crown that led to nearly the extinction of the Jews. The crown that led to the absolute destruction of the South American First Peoples. Absolutely. We watched two distinct societies nearly disappear from the face of the earth. Nearly eradicated. 1,200 live today in the United States of America. That's it. All done through crown colonial power. This is video 1, episode 1, the story of the Boer Wars. And absolutely the first real concentration camps the world has ever seen. It's true, it's verifiable, it's credible. I couldn't make it up if my life depended on it. Join me every day that we work on residential school genocide as an education goes out to chiefs by First Peoples here in Canada who are vetted, reliable. We'll get that education to them. We're going to see what happens with the Elder Council, the UN, and the United Nations Security Council. Now, Canada clearly wants World War III. They want to make sure Russia is removed from the UNSC at all costs, even sending every Canadian to war. They wouldn't care because it doesn't affect Britain. Remember, your Constitution, the highest law of the land, says Canada, for the betterment of the British Empire, absolutely at all of your expenses, meaning they will sacrifice every Canadian's life before ever harming a smidgen hair on any Brit's head. This is the same for Australia, New Zealand, and many, many other Commonwealth nations. It's why they signed on to the Charter of 2012. You will find Agenda 2021. You will find Agenda 2030. It's all there. A city-state, an island state called the United Kingdom. Very small landmass with all the oceans around it. It's an island state. This isn't what Canada is. We could never, ever get to that capacity. We have to follow a Russia-USA system where Canada falls apart. Canada's broken. We're built on travesty. We're built on genocide. We're built on crown land. We can't even settle our country. Apparently, constitutionally, this is what's best for Britain, and it's best to get as many citizens loyal to the crown assembled in Canada to keep it going, to keep that slave class working, the savage Indian bested, until their absolute extinction. If you don't believe me, folks, I again ask you, go to the Boer Wars, 1867 to 1901. You think what the Nazis did to the Jews in their time frame from 1933's Enabling Act was a craft of crazy Nazi brilliance? No, it was a craft of crazy, atrocious United Kingdom as the British Empire 60 years before. It was first implemented in Canada in 1876. It went on to South Africa. Canada is the first model that was presented to Nazi Germany, another crown colonial superpower. Stay tuned. There's another video each and every day, a story of atrocity and genocide that you've never been made aware of. Thank you. Please share, do the right thing. It's all about education and understanding to know what you're up against. Because people can lie and deny, all your politicians do. Pierre Poilievre quits WEF last year because he wanted to run for Conservative leadership. That's what they do. They change tactic. They tell you what you want to hear. Because in Canada, The Constitution allows politicians who are divine gods over you, if you elect them, you give them the authority of God, where they don't have to tell you the truth, they don't have to make sense. They just do whatever they want. And that's your problem. You elected them on a bag of lies. Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, Yves Blanchette, Elizabeth May, Maxime Bernier, we can go on and on. They're all corrupted. They're all for the British royal family and all against all of you. If you are a working Joe Jane, the majority of Canadians, you are nothing but the shit on the bottom of their boots to be utilized, beaten, flogged, murdered as needed. They want World War III. Zelensky just went in front of the house and said, oh, we need World War III, and they just did a video bragging about how Canada is right beside Ukraine and World War III is a great idea. Kick Russia out so that the crown can flourish and then they can all destroy America. Because that's what it's about. 78% of Americans in 1924 said no. It was the last American Indian War in 1924. Americans had woken up. They had gotten tired of the Laurentian elite style that brutalized Americans. France, UK, Spain, Portugal, which would later become Mexico in war. You can see again, France war, British war, again and again and again, even the Danes. It goes on and on for America. They fought 5 colonial powers, heavy colonial powers. In Asia, you see 3 colonial powers, 2 different. You see in South America, you see all 5 too, but 3 that America hadn't had to fight as much of, as well as Canada. We got the British-French majority. But when you look at the change of the 50 states and you look at the overlap, they've got 2 more colonials that Canada never really had to deal with. But Canada remained vested in colonial superpowers. We remained vested in France and Britain in all their travesty, set at a time when that is nothing of what the world is supposed to be today. 1867, that constitutional act of Canada that remains in force today, must be wiped out. We must take it on. Never again. That's the Allies' promise of World War II. And today Canada says, World War III! Who cares about the promise? We've grossly violated our position in the name of the United Kingdom because Canadians and the First Peoples, the savage Indian, don't mean sweet fuck all. We're the Laurentian elite. We are the sworn lovers of the crown, the elected politicians who will sacrifice every Canadian's life for the glory of the royal family and the then British Empire to relive and build it today. We love the crown, we wear it proudly, and we're never going to get rid of the superiority of us as real human beings against those we deem inferior. Sound familiar, folks? Nazi Germany, the British Empire, Spain, Portugal, the Danes, Germany, Japan. That's the hallmark of Axis or Ally colonial power. Those World War I and II were colonial wars. Colonial wars of superiority. And for all you working stiffs, all you small business domestic owners of a second and third class, you're nothing. Because you're not even in the Constitution of Canada. You're not. You're not there. The Charter is in the power, in the hands of those superior human beings, gods over you, the first-class politicians, to administer as they see fit. You only have the power to vote or build a party in this country. That's all you have. They got the media, the military, the police, they got it all. sworn to them. Your Medicare, your public sector, all of it. All of it. Designed to bring you down, designed to work for the elite. We can't let this system come from the past and come back today. It's bad enough that Canada's had it in place the entire time. It's bad that Canada wishes to see this imparted on a former Soviet, the Ukraine. Canada wants to be a part of that. There's an elite amount of foreign business owners with deep ties to the Democrats in the United States of America. They want to go forward there. They're already going through expatriate system legally to remove themselves as American citizens, because America First and the IRS will hunt you to all the ends of the earth. They're already moving into the crown colonials. Canada is a natural place to go for a lying, thieving, elite, rich tax dodger. Someone who's scared about the upcoming midterms by the thousands, rich, wealthy elites from the United States who made boatloads of money, the highest amount of wealth ever generated in the United States of America. We've seen it all over the Commonwealth, everywhere. These people made a lot of money, record profits. And to dodge the IRS and America First, a placed constitutional design empowering the people so they'd never be fleeced or flogged. And now that these rich Americans realize all the money I stole, all my shenanigans during COVID-19, all of my Democrat-sponsored, liberal-sponsored protections and ability to rape, pillage, and plunder the taxpayers, it's going to come and get me here in midterms. I've got to get out. But I can't get out because the IRS will hunt me to the ends of the earth. What do? Well, become an expatriate. Canada's got law firms on this full time. I just sat in yesterday, went through a whole webinar on it. Thousands of Americans, all wanting to renounce their American citizenship, go through all of it from IRS to Homeland Security, everything, so that their status as Americans gone. They've legally transferred all their wealth, all of their businesses into the Commonwealth. Goodbye, America. Hello, Crown. They want the class structure. They like the working slaves to be insured against all their devious business practices, but you, the Joe Jane taxpayer, will insure it. They will rape you. They will abuse you. You will own nothing. If you believe Pierre Poilievre and his clear lies, that he somehow flipped and gone on a new quest of love of Canadians, I'm sorry. He's a lifetime Privy Council member, sworn to the Crown, and he's done nothing but destroy Canadians, as Justin Trudeau, as again Jagmeet Singh, as Maxime Bernier, and as all the federal politicians embark on to do, because that's what they're sworn to. And if you don't believe me, in your highest law of the land is the preamble of the Canadian Constitutional Act 1867-1982, plus the Section B attachment of the Charter. Read the introduction of what your Constitution is. Neo-Nazi, neo-nationalism. That is exactly what the preamble of the Canadian Constitution is. You're the enemy. We're the enemy. We're the leaders of the NWO in the world today. All for foreign interests. It's everything America renounced. It is absolutely opposite of what America is. Joe Biden clearly went for it. He went for a united state of America, and he's clearly going to get thrown out on his ass. Stay tuned, everybody, for tomorrow's story on residential school genocide and the history of what is, as it really is, as we teach more and more real stories of real history, where it all comes from. Thank you. Bye now.